Everyone, sorry for that and welcome you to today's session. Salam, Adab, Namaste. And today's speaker, as you know, is Raza Naeem Saab, who is president of the Progressive Writers Association in Pakistan. He is a political economist, a researcher, economist. You must have seen his columns in Friday Times, Dawn, and other places. And this is probably a book that he has been working on, Hemu Kalani, a lost hero of Pakistan. The introductory remarks will be given by Dr. Manzoor Ali Visrio, who is an assistant Visrio, who is an assistant professor of Sindhi language and literature, National Institute of Pakistan, Sindh, Quaid-e-Azam University, Islamabad, Pakistan. Concluding remarks will be given by Saz Agrawal from India, who is an independent researcher, writer, and artist. She is unable to join in person, so she has sent the video for the concluding remark at the end of the talk. So we are now requesting, in absence of Raza Naeem Saab, we are requesting Dr. Manzoor Ali Saab to start. Raza Naeem Saab has joined. Welcome, Raza Naeem Saab. Faisal, make him the co-host. We were about to start because we are already really late, and I was apologizing continuously to others. So now, without any further delay, it was just the poster was there, and I was introducing everyone. So now we invite Dr. Manzoor Ali for the introductory remarks. So hope you all will bear with us.
Okay, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. I start with the couplet of Abdur Shah Abdul Bitai. साइम सदाई करीमत सिंध सुकार दोस्त मिठा दिलदार आलम सब आबाद करें. My name is Dr. Manzoor and I am a student of Sindhi language and literature. First of all, I am very thankful to Indian diaspora, Washington Metro, Raza Naeem, a political economist, researcher, translator, Didi Saz Agarwal, who gave me the opportunity to talk about the freedom fighter Hemu Kalani, famous as Bhagat Singh of Sindh. He was found to fight against the British occupation of subcontinent for the motherland. Today, Raza Naeem is the key speaker, and he will talk about in detail on his life and his struggle. I say some words about Hemu Kalani, कि वो द यंगेस्ट फ्रीडम फाइटर और उसने जिस तरह से ब्रिटिशर्स के खिलाफ जब जवाहरलाल नेहरू साहब ने बाइकाट किया था जो है तो उस पर उन्होंने उस पर लब्बैक किया था और फिर जितनी भी ब्रिटिशर्स या फॉरेन चीज़ें थी उनके खिलाफ और उसके अलावा वो पढ़ते थे स्टूडेंट लाइफ में और उनको पता चला कि एक खेप आ रही है असले की तो उन्होंने अपने दोस्तों से जो है मशवरा किया और कहा कि किसी भी सूरत में हम जो है इस को यहाँ आने नहीं देंगे जिसकी वजह से हमारे बहुत से लोग जो है इसी असले के थ्रू जो है वो शहीद किए जाएंगे और हमारे लोगों को नुकसान पहुंचेगा. तो फिर ये बात जो है जैसे उन्होंने इसकी तैयारी की तो किसी तरह वो पता चल गया और फिर इनको जो है वो बाकी दोस्त इनके वहाँ से भाग निकले और हेमो कालानी को जो है वो जेल भेज दिया गया और काफ़ी हेमो को कहा गया कि आप सरेंडर करें, माफ़ी मांगें और ताकि हम आपको माफ़ करें या आपको कम सज़ा दी जाए. मगर हीमो किसी भी तरह कह रहा था कि मैं अपनी धरती पर मरना पसंद करूँगा मगर किसी भी तौर पर जो है वो सरेंडर नहीं करूँगा. इवन जब उनकी माँ भी उनके पास आती है और कहती है कि बेटा आप मेरे लिए जो है सरेंडर करो तो उन्होंने कहा माँ एक माँ आप हैं और एक माँ मेरी जो है वो धरती है। मैं आपके लिए हर चीज़ कुर्बान कर सकता हूँ, मगर मैं अपनी धरती के हवाले से जो है वो गद्दारी नहीं कर सकता, और मैं किसी भी सूरत में हार नहीं मानूंगा और अपनी जान अपनी धरती के लिए कुर्बान कर दूंगा। तो इसीलिए उन्होंने बारहा मुख्तलिफ हमारे उस वक्त के पॉलिटिशियंस और दीगर जो है जो उस वक्त के लीडरान थे, इनको मनाने की कोशिश की कि आप माफ़ी मांग लें, या आप इस चीज़ से जो है वो कहें कि मैंने ये इसकी माफ़ी मांगता हूँ, मगर उन्होंने किसी भी तौर पर ये मानने से इनकार किया और कहा कि मैं इस तरह से ज़िंदगी नहीं गुजार सकता कि मैं जो है दुश्मनों के सामने इनकार करूं और अपनी धरती माता जो है उसको दुश्मनों के हवाले कर दूं। तो उन्होंने अपनी जान जो है कुर्बान करने को तरजीह दी अपनी धरती पर, और जो है वो इसी तरह से शहीद हो गए और उनको हैंग किया गया। अब अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे यहाँ खास तौर पर मैं सिंध की बात करूँगा कि हम हमारे यहाँ हीरोज को जो है वो ज़्यादा इस तरह से उनके बारे में या उनकी जो जो कुर्बानियाँ हैं जो उन्होंने अपनी धरती के लिए की, उनको इस तरह से जो है सेलिब्रेट नहीं किया जाता या उनको याद इस तरह से नहीं किया जाता। तो इस हवाले से ये बहुत अच्छा इक़दाम है कि हम अपने एक हीरो जो कि अपनी जिन्होंने अपनी जान अपनी धरती के लिए कुर्बान कर दी, उस पर हम ये प्रोग्राम कर रहे हैं। सिंध में इस पर बहुत अदबी हवाले से कुछ आर्टिकल्स लिखे गए हैं। पीर अली मोहम्मद शाह राशिदी ने अपनी किताब में कुछ जिक्र किया है, अल्ताफ शेख साहब ने जिक्र किया है, और भी कुछ हमारे राइटर्स ने अभी हाल ही में उनकी लाइफ के हवाले से या जो आर्टिकल्स वगैरह लिखे गए हैं, तो हमारे आज़ाद कादी साहब ने एक बुक कंपाइल किया है। इसके अलावा हमारे यहाँ हेमू कालानी साहब जो कि एक ब्रेव हमारे शहीद हैं और अपनी धरती पर उन्होंने कुर्बान किया। एज सच जो है कोई रिसर्च या उनके नाम के हवाले से कोई किसी स्ट्रीट को या इस तरह से जो है यहाँ पर सिंध में जो है वो उन उनके नाम से मंसूब किया जाए, तो इस तरह की रिवायत नहीं मिल रही, जो कि अनफॉर्चुनेट है कि हम अपने मोहसिनों को जिन्होंने अपनी जान की कुर्बान कर दी, परवाह नहीं किया और अपनी धरती के लिए वो कुर्बान हो गए, मगर हम उनको याद नहीं करते। तो इस हवाले से मैं रज़ा नईम को और आपकी पूरी टीम को खराज तहसीन पेश करता हूँ कि उन्होंने देर आयत दुरुस्त आयत के मुस्ताक इस हवाले से ये आज का प्रोग्राम करके न सिर्फ उनको खराज तहसीन पेश की है, बल्कि नौजवानों को या दीगर जो हमारे स्टेशन को सुन रहे हैं उनके लिए भी जो है एक उनकी ज़िंदगी या उनकी जो स्ट्रगल है या उनकी जो शहादत है उन पर एक मालूमात जो है वो पहुंचा रहे हैं। तो मेरे ख्याल में ये एक एहसन कदम है और मैं इसको अप्रिशिएट करता हूँ और आप सबको जो है कांग्रेचुलेट करता हूँ।
थैंक यू वेरी मच, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू वेरी मच। और नजर रहीम साहब अब मौजूद हैं। सर, नाउ द सेशन इज इन योर हैंड, सो वेलकम।
सलाम रजा।
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Manzoor. Thank you so much, first of all, to Dr. Raziuddin. It's very kind of him and very patiently he waited for me to come. There were some glitches, technical glitches, because I haven't been using Zoom a lot since the last few months, because we are thankfully out of the COVID thing. So I think we are now back to, well, for now at least, back to physical office work and meetings. So there were some technical updates due to which I couldn't join in time, but I hope to finish on time, if not begin on time. I I'm very grateful to Dr. Rizzi for you know uh, assenting to this talk. Actually, this talk is a bit overdue because Hemu Kalani's birth centenary year was last year. Incidentally, he was born on 23rd March, which is a very hallowed date in the South Asian calendar. Because 23rd March is celebrated in Pakistan as Republic Day. It used to be called Republic Day before Ayub Khan took over. That's the day when the what was initially called the Lahore Resolution became the Pakistan Resolution in 1940. That is celebrated with a public holiday in Pakistan. 23rd March is also the year which is celebrated, well, remembered in India as the martyrdom of Bhagat Singh. And Bhagat Singh's mention is important because Hemu Kalani, the subject of my talk today, is known as the Indian Sindh Bhagat Singh of Sindh. So Bhagat Singh and his comrades Rajguru, they were executed in Lahore, in the city where I'm addressing you, on the 23rd of March 1931. A decade before, Hemu Kalani was also executed by the same colonial power. And then we have Hemu Kalani, whose date of birth actually is on 23rd March. Well, actually, the sources I have consulted, a lot of speculation about the real birthday of birth year and birthday of Hemu Kalani, but let's say that 23rd March is also mentioned as the birthday of Hemu Kalani. So, so this talk was supposed to be held last year, but unfortunately, due to many reasons, I do know that Razi Saab follows a very busy calendar at the Washington DC Metro. So every Saturday, there is usually some talk on literature or politics. And I have been the recipient of his attention in the past as well. I remember it was, I think, 2 years ago or 3 years ago that my own talk on the great Indian poet Sahil Ludhianvi very kindly was assented to by Rizi Saab, and maybe some of you were present there when I gave that talk on Sahil Ludhianvi and Lahore, and uh, on the opposite side of the border, our friend Danish Iqbal, Dr. Danish Iqbal, took up the story of Sahil Ludhianvi from Bombay. What I hope to do is that I'm very grateful to Dr. Manzoor for making my job easier because I mean, the factual details about Hemu Kalani's talk are very well known, and Dr. Manzoor has recounted some of them, if not all of them. What I'm going to do is really talk a bit about you know, uh, my process, because this is basically I mean, the reason I'm giving these talks, and I've talked about Hemu Kalani at various fora in Pakistan, because I hope to, get your feedback, very honest feedback, because this will go into the writing of a monograph, which I hope to write on Hemu Kalani. So you are actually helping me. People like Dr. Raziuddin, this amazing forum called Washington DC Metro. When you listen to my talk, when you attend it, and when you give feedback, it will help me in tightening my research process. So the first part of my talk will talk about that, and I will mention some very important details about Hemu Kalani's life, and then I come to the afterlife part, the afterlife of Hemu Kalani, which is also equally important, if not more important. What has Pakistan, the successor post colonial state, done with one of its heroes? Well, actually, all of its heroes, if truth be told. And where can we go from here? Uh, so, you know, I was reading something in 2022, and this is not the first time I have done a talk or presented a paper on Sindh or Sindhi heroes. I have a long-standing interest in Sindh, the Indus Valley civilization, and thank you, Razi Saab, for putting that on the poster for the talk as well. That I am interested in Sindhi heroes and Sindhi history. But let me also say, there are people much vastly knowledgeable on Sindh and Sindhi history than I am. I don't consider myself an expert at all. I am an enthusiast, and I would like to remain an enthusiast. I have a bit of training in archives and in history, but that's about it. But obviously, when you are recovering voices like Hemu Kalani's, from the, sands of time, it is a work of love. It's love labor. It's a work of labor, and also, whatever training you might have does come in handy sometimes. So, you know, a very chance accidental reading of some article, I don't remember now, or a book, it threw up this name Hemu Kalani, and it sounded a bit unfamiliar and also familiar at the same time, you know, because obviously, Pakistan has a Hindu minority, a very active and vocal Hindu minority. Well, we celebrate August 11 as Minorities Day in Pakistan, even though I don't prefer this word minorities. I think citizens is a more inclusive word, and of course, uh, India now looks like more and more like a Hindu majority country. Pakistan used to be like that with regard to Muslims. So I prefer the word citizen rather than minorities. There are minorities living on both sides of this border, and Hemu Kalani occupies a very fractious space in India and Pakistan. So I became interested in Hemu Kalani, and then I contacted some friends in Pakistan. Didn't throw up a lot of uh, hints, and then I contacted, uh, the person who was supposed to be who is the concluding speaker here. She will be addressing you through video. Uh, uh, Saz Agarwal on email, and as you will see in the video, she also discovered Hemu Kalani in a very, very accidental way. Although she is much more of a bona fide researcher on Sindh, on what the partition did to Sindh than me. So, here I was trying to piece together Hemu Kalani's story in Pakistan, and I wasn't yet interested in what India had done to him. I do know that India has treated its colonial heroes in a much better way. Although, unfortunately, they have repaid that by appropriating or misappropriating its heroes. We know what Bhagat Singh has undergone. In India, he is now more and more being saffronized and put in bed with Bhindranwale, the likes of Bhindranwale, the famous hero or anti-hero of the Gold Operation Blue Star. So yeah, I hope that fate doesn't await Hemu Kalani. So in late 2022, I became interested, and then Saz put me in touch with this email thread which had lots of Sindhi researchers, and we built a sort of a collective, and everyone was like pitching in how to get information on a son of the soil who was born in Pakistan, yet curiously remains lost in Pakistan, and whose parents migrated to India. So I tried to piece together this story. There were some literary references, and I will make mention to a wonderful poem which I discovered also uh, by Barkha Khushalani, who is actually attending this talk today. I'm going to mention her because her poem was also very crucial in pointing the way forward to my research on Hemu Kalani. Uh, so 2023, most of it was taken up by trying to figure out the story behind this figure who was born in Sakhar, was spent, most of his adult life in Sakhar, was executed by the British in Sakhar, and had his ashes, जिसको हम गंगा स्नान कहते हैं by the river Indus in Sakkar, but curiously remained absent from Pakistan's national and historical consciousness. It wasn't till I went to England on a chance conference trip in December 2023 that I mean, I don't know about other people, but people when I normally visit London or any other metropolitan center, I want to go to the libraries and archives. So I went to the British Library, renewed my card, and went to the South Asian collections over there. Now, this is a very solid reference. They've got a wonderful set of South Asian collections, some of them very, very rare. Uh, Now, one thing which post-colonial states have made it impossible is for their citizens to access these historical archives within India and Pakistan. So if I just have a letter of introduction from someone and I just go into the National Archives of Pakistan, I will not be entertained by the authorities. Even if there's a Pakistani origin scholar who is a citizen of the West, they want to come to Pakistan and want to visit the archives. That is also a very, very sad story. Just goes to tell you that theoretically we have achieved decolonization, but the archives have yet to be decolonized. Now, this is not a problem in Britain. In Britain, anybody can walk in and access the archives, no matter who they are. So I found my way through the archives and I found this wonderful volume called, uh, banned books during British colonial rule. And it had a list of all the banned books which the British had banned during their entire period after the 1857 War of Independence. And there were some names which were routinely being mentioned over there, and I made a note of them in my pad. I had only 1 week in London, and unfortunately, other archives you have to have dates done for you. Like if I visited National Archives in Kew Gardens, I had to contact them 2 months ago because the dates of visits were not available. So whatever was available in the British archives, this volume on banned publications, 1 or 2 names were being mentioned again and again. And one of them was Hemu Kalani. And again, I went back to that familiar name which I had first heard in 2022, a year back. So I immediately made a note and I fished through their archives to see what is available on Hemu Kalani. In Britain, there's this wonderful, thing that no matter where the book or pamphlet is located in Britain, if you request it, they will, just furnish you with it in a matter of days. So unfortunately, you can't photocopy anything there. You have to make a photograph. So this is what I did. I was traveling to Sussex in a couple of days, so I made a request that there is some material, a play which has been written by some Sindhi on Hemu Kalani, and it's an illustrated play. Now I haven't seen an illustrated play, so I immediately jumped on that source and I asked my handlers in the British Library to get me that book. And it duly arrived when I came back from Brighton in 2 or 3 days, and that is, I don't understand Hindi, and it was written in Sindhi and Hindi, that play. And of course, I can provide the references. In my paper, I have provided the references. It had photographs of Hemu Kalani, and this is something I had never seen in Pakistan. You know, it had photographs of his mother Jethi Bai, who was nothing short of a heroine. And it had photographs of a very, very moving photograph of the mothers of the two big heroes of India, Bhagat Singh and Hemu Kalani, sitting together at a ceremony. Now, they say a picture tells 1,000 words. So, how to tell the story of Hemu Kalani just by looking at a play which is written in Hindi and Sindhi? And I don't understand Sindhi a lot, the written part, not the spoken part. Sindhi is not too different from Punjabi and Urdu, by the way. So I got all those photographs and then I began to piece together the story, and gradually, I came back to Pakistan, and this is how what I have to say now is based on that story. And it's quite a story because Hemu Kalani, basically, I'm not going to recall his whole story here. It's going to become too long, but I hope to provide you with some snippets, and maybe when if someone asks for a reference, I can provide them my paper, or when the book is published, I can certainly refer that to you. Some episodes of Hemu Kalani's life. So he was born, to the house of Pesumal Kalani, who was a government contractor on 23rd March 1923 in Sakhar. Sakhar is one of the biggest cities in Sindh, after Karachi and Hyderabad. It is a big city and has a very long and revolutionary history. I don't have the time to recall, and there's a long history insurrections from Sakhar against the British going back to 1857. Now, I must also tell you that Sindhis have a very distinguished pedigree when it comes to independence movement. Let me start my talk right from the time of Hoshu Shidi. Now, Shidis are the those people who emigrated from Africa onto the shores of the Arabian Sea. They have dark features, and one of them, Tanzila Kambrani, recently got elected to the Sindh Assembly. They are a victim of racism as well because they're dark. They're not fair like or brown like Sindhis because their ancestors migrated from Africa. So they're called Siddhis or Shidis. So Hoshu Shidi and Ruplu Kohli were two Sindhis who laid down their life for the motherland in the War of Independence in 1857. So that's where the contribution of Sindhis begins to the anti-colonial narrative. Then you come to the Azad Hind Fauj of Subhash Chandra Bose. You had a Sindhi called Tejumal who was part of the Azad Hind Fauj. And many movies have been made on the Azad Hind Fauj and Subhash Chandra Bose, very magnetic figure. And then, of course, you had Ali Ahmad Barohi, another Sindhi who was part of the 1946 Royal Indian Navy mutiny. Again, a big event, which is not discussed in the textbooks, which shook the British Empire, which was already under siege from World War II. The RIN mutiny, basically, it shook the coattails of the dying British colonialism in India, just a year away from independence. So Ali Ahmad Barohi was another a commander of the RIN mutiny. He was another Sindhi. And then, you have people like Ubaidullah Sindhi, who was one of the great freedom fighters, who basically was a Sikh from Punjab, who converted to Islam at the age of 9 years old and then came to Deoband and became imbued with the anti-imperialist ideas of Allama Hussain Ahmad Madni. I'm sure you have discussed it in some of your talks here. He was a very towering figure, Allama Hussain Ahmad Madni. And then he gave the fatwa for jihad and declared India Darul Harb. And then Ubaidullah Sindhi, his efforts led to the independence of Afghanistan under Amir Amanullah, and he put in his lot with Sindh. That's why this Punjabi was called Ubaidullah Sindhi, because he devoted himself to Sindh and then traveled the whole world to organize activities against the British, including Lenin's Russia. Lenin was dying at that time in 1924. Then he came back to Istanbul, where the Ottoman Empire was in its last throes. And in 1924, exactly 100 years ago, Ubaidullah Sindhi gave his famous Manshur, his constitution, which envisaged a free India. But this was given 6 years before Allama Iqbal's Allahabad address, which also called for a separate country called Pakistan. But Ubaidullah Sindhi wanted a free country within the Federation of India, and that constitution was so dangerous that the British censored it, banned its export to India, and kept Ubaidullah Sindhi out of India until towards the end of his life. So interestingly, Ubaidullah Sindhi was against the partition of India. We'll discuss him some other time. Very interesting figure. We talk about Azad a lot. We talk about Iqbal a lot. What about Ubaidullah Sindhi? He did not want a country run by mullahs. He wanted an independent country. And interestingly, all of those areas which are now Pakistan were envisaged by Ubaidullah Sindhi in his revolutionary constitution. So he died in 1944 and he was visiting his daughter in Sindh at that time. So a person who was against the partition of India, was against Jinnah, he now ends up being buried in Sindh. He's buried there and regarded as a freedom fighter both by India and Pakistan. So both India and Pakistan put stamps in recognition of Ubaidullah Sindhi. So he was another Sindhi, And then you have GM Sayyid, who is credited with the founder being the founder of Sindhu Desh. He was the only leader who moved a resolution for Sindh to join Pakistan. No other leader, whether from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, NWFP it was called, whether from Punjab, whether from West Bengal, he was the only major leader of the areas which became Pakistan who actually moved a resolution for Sindh to join Pakistan. And later on, he was kept under house arrest for the rest of his life as a traitor to Pakistan. This is also on record. So these are all very distinguished Sindhis who have made enormous contributions to the freedom struggle. And as Saz will also tell you later on, these contributions need to be highlighted. There's a big diaspora of Sindh, in America, in England. They even don't know about all these people. And then we come to Hemu Kalani. So Hemu Kalani was born, as I mentioned, to the house of Pesumal Kalani, who was a government contractor who used to build jails for the British. So it was not very contradictory for a person who would later on lay down his life for the motherland to be born at the home of a loyalist who used to build prisons under contract for the British. And he very soon, Hemu Kalani, he was good at studies, but he was well regarded as a champion wrestler and a champion swimmer. Later on, Saz Agarwal, she was very kind. She sent me a book on Hemu Kalani, which was printed in India on the 75th anniversary of the independence, Azadi Ka Parwana Hemu Kalani. And it's a brilliant book which I have credited in my research, which actually tells me, and I didn't know this, that Hemu Kalani may actually have come to Lahore also as part of a cricketing team, which is amazing. Even Lahoris don't know about it. He may have come to Lahore as part of a cricketing team because he was a very good sportsman. Unfortunately, there is no plaque anywhere in Lahore to commemorate. If Hemu Kalani ever visited Lahore, we don't know about it. Maybe someone from among you can help me, and I would be anxious to. But this book, Jethu Lalwani's book I'm talking about, Azadi Ka Parwana Shahid Hemu Kalani, it actually, that was the book which came to me at a very crucial time in my research, sent to me from Pune through the Wagah border, Amritsar, Wagah, Lahore, because books can't reach Lahore, unfortunately, unless you have friends who are coming and who have good relations with the Pakistani High Commissioner. That's how that book came to me. And I have credited that book in my research. And my friend from Amritsar, Dr. Avinder Chamak, who has been coming to Pakistan for the last 40 years. So this is also a fact. Borders, you know. Uh, so Hemu Kalani was very much inspired by his uncle Mangaram, who was a very active person in the Congress party, very much against the British, and very soon, and he was the patron of a youth organization called Swaraj Sena, which used to mobilize students against the British. You know, so Hemu Kalani very soon showed leadership abilities. He became the head of Swaraj Sena. And fast forward to 1942, when the Quit India movement is going on, Mahatma Gandhi, as you know, was the spearhead of Quit India movement. He decides to come to Karachi to address a huge gathering at the height of the Quit India movement. Now, Hemu had a classmate called Lakshman Das Keshwani. I hope I spell the name right. He mentions in his memoirs that it was a big occasion, for Gandhi to come to Karachi, and they were all in Sakhar. So they wanted to go and visit Gandhi. And it's a very hilarious incident that they wanted to come near Gandhi, and Gandhi was obviously inaccessible. And they recognized one of their headmasters, Master Rangmal, who was वो पंखा झल रहे थे गांधी साहब को. So they said how to approach Gandhi, So Lakshman Das Keshwani, Hemu's classmate, he basically went to Lakshman Das, went to Master Rangmal and said, Master Ji, you must be tired, fanning Gandhi Sahab. Please hand me the fan so that I can fan him. And this is how he was able to approach Gandhi. And when Gandhi finished his speech, Lakshman Das Keshwani addressed Gandhi and said, please tell us what we can do for the freedom of India. And Gandhi asked him, what, gentle young man, what do you do? And Lakshman Das Keshwani said, well, we are all students. And he said, okay, then what you can do is mobilize the youth against the British. That's what Gandhi told Lakshman Das Keshwani. And Lakshman Das Keshwani came back and shared this message with his friend Hemu Kalani. And Hemu Kalani quickly became, he was just 19 years old at that time. He quickly became the leader of Swaraj Sena. And, he very quickly, he determined that the British can't be forced to go out of India just by organizing protests and demonstrations. They will have to be evicted by force. So there were 4 other friends of Hemu Kalani who joined him in seditious activities against the British. One of them was Lakshman Das Keshwani, the other was Hari Lilani, the third was, Hari Lilani, and, the fourth one, I hope I got the names right. The fourth one was, Tikam Bhatia. So, one of the first things they did was, the house of the, collector of Sakkar, they went and removed the Union Jack and put the tricolor of the Congress in their place. So they did these seditious activities, and then their uncle Mangaram, decided that they have to graduate to some terror activities, much like Bhagat Singh, you remember, had attempted to explode a bomb in the Punjab Assembly, because according to him, the British were deaf; they couldn't hear the cries of the British. So they tried to put a bomb in the Sakhar court. The bomb was kept inside a bag, but unfortunately or fortunately, the bomb was discovered by a clerk who quickly called the British, and the bomb was defused. So Mangaram, who was Hemu Kalani's uncle, told them that there is a train, goods train, heavily armed, which was going from Sakhar, and it must be looted, because if India is to be freed, then they have to get the gold, they have to get money to buy weapons so that India can be freed. Uh, so this information was relayed by Hemu Kalani to his 4 friends when they were watching a movie in Sakhar, and they decided to, impede the train by taking out the bolts from the fish plates in Sakhar. So I'm really fast forwarding it because these details are available, because I want to get to the other part. So on October 22nd, 1942, Hemu Kalani, Keshwani, and Lilani, Hari Lilani, Tikam Bhatia, and Santu. They all went to this path on the tracks where the train from Sakkar was going to come. It was near a police station, and they began to take out the fish plates, the bolts from the fish plates of the rail. Now, obviously, it's hard work. When it's night time, and the bolts were of different sizes. They were having difficulty in prizing them out. So somebody actually heard them, working the fish, taking out the bolts. Now there's a dispute about who was that someone. Some said it was a guard at the nearby biscuit factory who, hearing the noise of the bolts being taken out, alerted the police, and the police, because that time was the time of curfews, and Sindh was under martial law. So the military police came. The guard shone the light. He came hearing the noises of the bolts being taken out, and he shone the light and he asked, "Who are you, gentlemen?" And according to legend, all the 4 friends of Hemu, they escaped except Hemu Kalani. For some reason, he did not escape. He stood there and he allowed himself to be arrested and captured without any resistance. And next day, the newspaper carried a big headline: Attempt to derail Quetta bound train unsuccessful. One rebel was arrested. So, 4 friends of Hemu Kalani, they fled. Hari Lilani and Tikam Bhatia fled to the old part of Sakhar, and Keshwani and Hashu Santani escaped to Shikarpur. Now they were very afraid that Hemu might tell their names and betray them. There was a big, very palpable feeling. This 19-year-old, what is he going to do next? He's been apprehended. Uh, so Hemu Kalani was tortured by the British. They insisted that they insisted that he must have been assisted by his friends. He should name them. He should shame them. But under torture, Hemu refused to reveal the names of his other comrades, and he insisted that he had acted alone in this activity. Uh, as I mentioned before, there were seditious activities taking place in Sindh at that time because Sindh was under martial law. There were other incidents also happening. So Hemu's case was particularly ferocious. He was tortured relentlessly because, the Hur movement, which was another very great movement led by Pir Pagada, who was the spiritual head, they were also looting trains. And similar incident had happened on 16th of May 1942. A train on its way to Lahore had been routed in Sangad, which is in Sindh. So the case of Hemu Kalani was pretty serious, and the British were determined to teach them a lesson. Simchatullah Rashti was also later on executed in the same year, like Hemu Kalani. So Hemu's case was filed in a special tribunal, and look at the people who were defending him. Some of the most distinguished people who later on had very great careers in Pakistan. One of them was Abdul Sattar Pirzada, who was the lawyer of Hemu Kalani. Now, Abdul Sattar Pirzada was the father of Abdul Hafiz Pirzada, who later on became a minister in the People's Party government of Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in 1970, after the separation of East independence of Bangladesh. And Abdul Hafiz Pirzada is called the father of the Pakistani constitution. Uh, Also, Nandi Ram Vadwani and Sadhu Ram Kalani, all of these people represented Hemu Kalani, and the lawyers advised the young Hemu not to plead guilty in the court. Okay, now the court proceedings are taking place. Hemu was presented to the court bound in chains, and he proudly said that he was acting alone, and he had no regrets about his actions. He refused to apologize, and Hemu's lawyers were very desperate to save his life, so they requested the court to be lenient with Hemu because he was just a 19-year-old lad. He was a young man, and young people often make mistakes. So that was the position of Hemu's lawyers. Uh, so the tribunal, taking a lenient view, they sentenced Hemu Kalani to 10 years in prison, and his court papers were sent to the Hyderabad, Hyderabad, because the headquarters of the Martial Law Authority of Sindh was Hyderabad. Now, martial law administrator was a particularly callous guy called Major General Richardson. He changed Hemu's sentence from 10-year imprisonment to a death sentence because he wanted to teach Hemu Kalani a lesson. He wanted to teach the Indians a lesson, much like Bhagat Singh was taught a lesson 10 years ago. I mean, how dare these Indians think about seditious activities against the British Empire? So he changed Hemu's sentence to a death sentence, and immediately after the death sentence was publicized, many of the dignitaries of that time, they began to galvanize. Now it's very interesting that when Hemu was arrested, there were lots of communal discord between Hindus and Muslims in Sindh. But when Hemu's judgment came, when it was decided that he will be handed a death sentence, immediately, the whole of the Sindhi elite across the national divide, whether Hindu or Muslim or Parsi, all of them mobilized for parole for Hemu Kalani. Who are these people? They included the then mayor of Karachi, Jamshed G. Mehta. If you go to Karachi, that whole beautiful promenade along the sea, that was developed by Jamshed Ji Mehta, who was a Parsi. He was at the forefront of pleading clemency for Hemu Kalani. Then there was the head priest of Sadhu Bela temple, Swami Harnamdas. Sadhu Bela used to be a very important temple. It is still there in Sakhar. And T.L. Vaswani, who was a very famous educationist, and former assistant public prosecutor of Sakhar, Abdul Sattar Pirzada. So you can see Parsi, Hindu, Muslim, all of these dignitaries, they galvanized support so that the British can manumit the sentence of Hemu Kalani. They appealed to the martial law administrator and the British Viceroy to reconsider Hemu Kalani's death sentence, although Hemu did not endorse any such appeal. He did not ask the British to forgive him. So Hemu's brother Tekchand Kalani, we later on know that when Jethi Bai, Hemu Kalani's mother, visited his son in jail, she repeatedly tried to request Hemu Kalani to sign the clemency papers, to reveal the name of his co-conspirators, and to appeal against the death penalty. But Hemu Kalani refused to do so repeatedly. He refused to accede to his mother's requests. And here I would like to pause a minute and there's a beautiful poem which was given my way by my friend Barkha Khushalani, who's attending this talk. I'm very grateful to her. She not only provided the Sindhi version to me, the sung version, it's beautiful. Maybe Barkha can send the link on this chat as well. But she also provided the translation because I can't read Sindhi. I can understand it. So this poem is called Shahzado Thiyo Shahid. It means the martyr prince. Obviously, the name, what she calls Hemu Kalani. And the poem creatively imagines the dialogue between the stubborn son Hemu Kalani and the pleading but resigned mother Jetibai, who does not want her son to be hung on the gallows. So I'm going to read, this poem, Shahzado Thiyo Shahid, in the English translation, which was provided to me by the poet Barkha Kushalani. I quote, Hemu, my dear son, who risks their life like you do, who hides the scars like you do, my dear prince, just come home with me. Amma, I have devoted my life to my motherland. Fighting for freedom makes me happy. I am sure you too will be happy. Who gets such a golden opportunity? Let me sacrifice and prove our unity. I will fight for our rights and whatever is right. Amma, my country needs me. How do I come home? My dear son, don't be stubborn. Your safety is my only concern. Just give the jailer the names of your friends. 1, 2, and 3. He will set you free. My dear prince, just come home with me. Amma, yes, for liberation from them, I will be adamant. Will show them my true gallant, but will never reveal the names of my friends. How can I cheat on my friends? Amma, my country needs me. How do I come home? My dear Hemu, this tender age, you are locked in this cage. Don't push yourself into their rage. Be wise, my prince, just come home with me. Amma, how can I deceive my homeland? Friends, their parents, am all set to give my life for my nation. My first parent, let me do my duty for my loving community. Amma, my country needs me. How do I come home? Hemu, my dear, how will I live without you? Names of your friends, jailer needs a queue. Save your skin, son, live life anew. My dear prince, just come home with me. My strong Amma, don't become weak. Patriotism runs in my veins. Freedom you and I seek. I wish to offer my head in exchange of freedom. Amma, my country needs me. How do I come home? I am proud of your courage, but I am helpless. Dear Hemu, do not take the plunge. My dear prince, just come home with me. Amma, make your heart strong. You know they are in the wrong. Bless me and let me go. These traitors deserve a blow. Amma, my country needs me. How do I come home? My dear son, without you, why and how do I survive? Will pray to the Almighty for you each moment. My dear prince, continue towards the freedom movement. And the last but not the least stanza. Amma, my country is my pride, prestige, and power. My sacrifice is the need of the hour. Every birth I want to be reborn there. Now have to start the mystifying journey there. End quote. It's a very moving poem, and I felt compelled to include it in my paper. And that refrain, Amma, my country needs me. How do I come home? It just really kills you there. So I'm sure in Sindhi, it's even more beautiful. I've heard it. It's just absolutely moving. I haven't read any. I told you I came across this play in England on Hemu Kalani, but I have never come. I'm sure there are other poems. He's a much celebrated figure in Sindhi legend. Much written about, even the great Sheikh Ayaz, one of the greatest poets of the Indian subcontinent. He even mentioned Sheikh. He's also written poems on Sheikh Ayaz, but I haven't come across any poem, and I'm no expert here. So thank you, Barka, for bringing it my way. So the mother pleads with the son to reconsider, and the son refuses. And then on the 20th of January 1943, Hemu Kalani's brother Tek Chand receives a telegram informing him that Hemu Kalani will be hanged the next day, January 21st. So Hemu's family members quickly go to the gallows, to the gaol, to the death row, and they to see him one last time. And Tek Chand, Hemu Kalani's brother, remembers, that they were crying, you know. And Hemu Kalani asked them, why are you crying? Give me your blessing so I quickly obtain a second life. Because, they believe in reincarnation. So said, why are you crying? You pray for me so I have a second life so I can quickly come back and finish the unfinished task. That was what Hemu said. So Hemu's relatives tearfully bid him farewell, and according to legend, Hemu extended his arms from the jail and said to his brother that I'm leaving this task incomplete. Now it's up to you to complete this task of freeing India. Uh, so one day before his hanging, Hemu was asked by the British if he had any last wish, and this is again a very moving thing. Hemu said that yes, my last wish is that as I'm being led to the gallows, all the officials, I'm going to be chanting revolutionary slogans, and all the jail officials, they will respond in the affirmative. I mean, they should also be chanting revolutionary slogans. This is my last wish. Quite the revolutionary. So when Hemu Kalani was being led to the gallows, according to Jethu Lalwani, the book I quoted in the beginning, Azadi Ka Parwana, Hemu was chanting the slogans in Kalab Zindabad, Union Jack Murdabad, Vande Mataram, and the jail officials actually, you know, they, they were also chanting the same slogans in the affirmative. So Hemu got his last wish. Uh, what happened later on, was that Hemu was executed, and you know, uh, his family was asked to take away his body. When his family arrived from Sakhar to take custody of the body, the British said that you'll have to pay a security fee of 1,000 rupees. In those days, 1,000 rupees was quite a big sum of money. And because Hemu belonged to a very poor family, a middle class family, they did not have the money to pay to secure the corpse of their son. So a dignitary of Sindh came forward and paid the security deposit, and that was how the Hemu's family was able to get custody. But on the guarantee, before releasing the body, the British took a guarantee that if there is any disturbance in the city as Hemu's body is being led to the final destination, then the sole responsibility of those disturbances will lie with the family of Hemu. So callousness to the extreme. So you have this scene where Hemu Kalani's body is being taken to the school next to where it was going to be burnt on the funeral pyre, and everyone was watching. Some people are watching from the rooftops, and he was a hero, and following the news of his death, schools were boycotted. There were protests by the students everywhere, and people gathered in their thousands to watch the last destination of Hemu Kalani's corpse. There were protests all over. For example, in the Sri Swaminarayan temple in Karachi, a portrait was, there were protests. Black flags were waved in that temple. A portrait of Hemu Kalani was hung in the Sadhu Belo temple in Sakhar. Even Jawaharlal Nehru, who was going to take over as the first Prime Minister of India, on January 26, 1943, when he heard about the death of Hemu Kalani, this is what he had to say, and I quote: My mind traveled to Sindh, where a few days ago a young boy named Hemu, aged 20, was sent to the scaffolds by a martial law court for the offense of tampering or attempting to tamper with railway lines. He was a college student, recently matriculated. Whether his offense was properly proved or not, whether his offense was properly proved or not, little proof is needed by military tribunal functioning under martial law. I do not know, but this execution struck me as something which will have far-reaching consequences all over India, especially among the young. End quote. And history is witness that in 1943, when Nehru came to Karachi, he specially visited Sakkar, visited the family of Hemu Kalani, and condoled with Hemu's mother Jethi Bai. Captain Gurbaksh Singh Tillu of Subhash Chandra Bose's Azad Hind Fauj, he gave Jethi Bai a gold medal to honor and acknowledge the sacrifice of her son Hemu Kalani. And it was given the impact of Hemu Kalani's death that Hemu Kalani came to be known as the Bhagat Singh of Sindh. Now we all know what happened in 1947. Partition happened, and like many other parts of what was going to become Pakistan, Sindh's Hindu population moved across the border to India, and Hemu Kalani's family also moved from Sakkar, leaving the homeland for which their son had offered his life. The case is that Hemu Kalani is still remembered in India. He is very much honored in India, while hardly anybody knows his name in the land where he was born, the land of the pure called Pakistan. This is a big anomaly and a contradiction. Uh, it's a big, huge miss, and that's why I've called him the lost son of Pakistan. He was a Pakistani Shaheed because he was raised in Pakistan. He was brought up in Pakistan, in Sakkar, and he gave his life for the freedom. So I call him a Pakistani Shaheed, not an Indian Shaheed, you know. And maybe some of you will have something to say about that. So Hemu's family settled in Delhi after partition in 1947. And but the news traveled around, they tried their best to hide the news, but word usually gets around that this is the family of the Shaheed Amar Shahid Hemu Kalani, and ultimately word went to the highest authorities. And in 1983, 40 years after Hemu Kalani was executed, and on the occasion of Hemu Kalani's 60th birthday, the Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi had a Hemu Kalani memorial stamp issued. Now, during the ceremony, Hemu Kalani's mother Jethi Bai was invited, and history is witness that she was seated beside Bhagat Singh's mother, the other great Shaheed, the Shaheed-e-Azam, who was executed 10 years earlier to Hemu Kalani's execution. And this was a really poignant interaction between the mothers of the two Shaheeds. Now, the very next day, Indian newspapers published this beautiful photo of Jethi Bai and Bhagat Singh's mother seated with each other, and the caption, Sindh Mata with Punjab Mata. Now, Sindh Mata being Hemu Kalani's mother, and Punjab Mata being Bhagat Singh's mother. And I have that picture as well. I can share with you. I got that picture from the British Library in London. Uh, and Bhagat Singh's mother is on record as having told Jethi Bai, this is something to hear. Bhagat Singh's mother told Jethi Bai, I quote, "Your son is even greater than my son because he sacrificed his tender youth for the motherland." End quote. The highest compliment which only a Shaheed's mother can give to another Shaheed's mother. Then the system of honoring Hemu Kalani in India continued. On 21st August 2003, 20 years after Hemu Kalani's memorial stamp was issued, a 12-feet statue of Hemu was erected in the Indian Parliament, and it was unveiled at a ceremony where some of the highest Indian parliamentarians, including the late Indian Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who was the Prime Minister at that time, including Congress chief Sonia Gandhi and Ram Jethmalani, all of them, people who had a Sindhi heritage, they were present over there to unveil the statue and giving this whole process an official, veneer that Hemu Kalani has been recognized and acknowledged his services to the nation. Then the Hemu Kalani Yadgari Mandal was established in Delhi, and now it serves as a computer college. And one of its trustees is Hemu Kalani's uh, you know, uh, uh, sister-in-law, one of the trustees. Then a public square, which was formerly called Venus Chowk, was named after Hemu in Ulhasnagar. Again, Ulhasnagar is a place where many many Sindhi Hindus migrated, after partition. And more than a dozen roads and educational institutions today are named after Hemu Kalani. But what about his own birthplace? What about Pakistan? The case of Pakistan is that he is hardly mentioned in our history. Bhagat Singh is not mentioned, not even a line. I mean, the Bhakti movement is mentioned in a paragraph, but hardly Hemu Kalani, the son of the soil, where he grew up. Uh, we have a Minorities Day, which is celebrated on August 11 in honor of Muhammad Ali Jinnah's famous speech, where he said, "You're free to go to your temples and you're free to go to your mosque." But Hemu Kalani, in another day and age, he would have been acknowledged and given a Nishane Haider or a Tamghae, a state medal. His old house in Old Sakhar is still there on Mirki Street. It is there, but it is in a very dilapidated condition. If you search for pictures, you can find pictures of his house where he was raised. It's still there, but it has been dilapidated by weather. So if there was a caring government in place, they would actually declare that house a national monument, you know. Like in India, in Delhi, you have the Hemu Kalani Yadgari Mandal. But no. And the insult to the injury was carried out very recently when there was a park which was named Hemu Kalani Park in Sakhar by the banks of the Indus. The name of the park was changed to the Arab invader Muhammad bin Qasim. The name of Hemu Kalani Park was changed, and Muhammad bin Qasim was the slaughterer of innocent Hindus. I'm sure you know about Raja Dahir, who, according to legend, wrote to Hajjaj bin Yusuf, the governor of Iraq. I mean, ये भी एक mythology है that के वो कज़ाकों से बचाएं, और वो भी एक झूठ का पलंदा है. और फिर मोहम्मद बिन कासिम साहब आए और 17 साल की उम्र में उन्होंने फतह किया सिंध को. Put the Hindu population to the sword, देबल का मुहासरा. अभी इंडिया वालों ने एक ब्लॉकबस्टर मूवी नहीं बनाई. मेरे ख्याल में किसी को आइडिया नहीं आया. वो जो अभी जो हीरा मंडी जिन्होंने बनाई है, उनको अगर कोई आइडिया दे दे, वो एक बड़ी जबरदस्त. तो झूठ का पलंदा यहाँ भी हमारे यहाँ. तो उस पार्क का नाम, इट वाज चेंज टू हेमू कलानी पार्क. हेमू कलानी पार्क वाज चेंज टू मोहम्मद बिन कासिम पार्क. So this is the height of amnesia, you know. And basically, am I doing well on time, Razi Sahab?
जी, अच्छी तरह से आप कर रहे हैं, बहुत सही कर रहे हैं. यू कैन स्टिल कंटिन्यू इफ यू वांट टू फॉर सम
How
टाइम.
long?
10 more minutes.
Thank you. So, it's very interesting, कि unfortunately पाकिस्तान में तो now I want to broaden it कि हमारा जो बड़ा नेबर है इंडिया का, इंडिया में क्या हो रहा है वहां भी एग्जैक्टली. मतलब इंडिया पाकिस्तान तो एक छोटा भाई है, ये तो मुल्क इस्लाम के. यहाँ तो चले हम माइनॉरिटीज को वी डोंट केयर अ लॉट. वो तो उन्होंने, क्योंकि हमारे नैरेटिव में पाकिस्तान और इस्लामिक आइडियोलॉजी के नैरेटिव में ये हीरो सही नहीं बैठते. नाउ भगत सिंह वाज अ सन ऑफ लाइलपुर, नाउ कॉल्ड फैसलाबाद. you know thanks God that there is some sort of vibrant civil society in Punjab who own Bhagat Singh, who have basically, there is a house, it was a school where Bhagat Singh used to go in Lailpur, that has been preserved. The family to which it was allotted after partition, they have kept pictures, they have, or every year on 23rd March there is a candlelight vigil at Shadman Chowk in Lahore, where Bhagat Singh was executed. For years, there is a campaign to have Shadman Chowk renamed Bhagat Singh Chowk, but the mullahs will not let that chowk be renamed. Sindhis also own Hemu Kalani. Every child who is born in Sindh, grows up with the name of Hemu Kalani. But the Sindh government doesn't own their hero. There is no official memorial. There is no official celebration. Sindhis own Hemu Kalani. Even like in Punjab, they own. Even a former governor of Punjab, a military governor, Khalid Maqbool, even he acknowledged many, many years ago about Bhagat Singh being a hero of Pakistan, not just Punjab. So in India also, unfortunately, there is a saffronization of history going on. Look at how, I mean, I heard some television show where our anchor was telling with a very straight face that Taj Mahal used to be Yamuna Mandir. Horrible, horrible rewriting of history, you know. So this is taking that argument to the very next level. This unfortunately the same thing is happening in India. And why don't we commemorate Hemu Kalani in Pakistan? It is a question which I ask myself. I'm also asking you. Fine, his parents migrated to India after 47, but that should not stop the Pakistani state from celebrating someone who was a son of the soil like Bhagat Singh. I mean, celebrating and remembering people like Hemu Kalani and Bhagat Singh does nothing to the official narrative of Pakistan. It does nothing to insecuritize the establishment of Pakistan. Not making them part of a curriculum actually cuts off the next generation of Pakistanis from their roots. Because freedom is not fought for a particular community. Freedom is not fought for a particular religion. Hemu Kalani was not working for Hindu Dharam when he gave his life at the age of 19. He was fighting for everybody. He was fighting for you. He was fighting for me. Even the concept of Pakistan was really hazy even in 1943. Cripps mission had not yet come. So he died and fought for the sins of everybody. Bhagat Singh did not die for a particular caste he was an atheist, right? So unfortunately, Pakistan and India, they don't do a favor when they saffronize or they ignore and marginalize all these heroes and refuse to even give a token acknowledgement to these heroes. So the role of curriculum and public engagement is very, very important, you know. And this is basically the takeaway. And, I'm going to write that book on Hemu Kalani. And unfortunately, it's a very sad state of affairs because not only do we fail to commemorate our heroes like Hemu Kalani and Bhagat Singh, we also fail to commemorate many other events which do not feed into that narrative of Pakistaniyat or Pakistan ideology, like Gandhi's Salt March, huge mobilization, affected everybody all over the world, including Martin Luther King, by the way. In the United Gandhi Salt March, Rajiv Gandhi, recently undertook that Salt March, on that same path. And the reporting of Salt March was kept out of British for almost a year. It was such a seditious event that Gandhi, that picking up of salt, it was such a dangerous event. It ended the moral justification of the British to be the rulers of India. We don't commemorate it. We don't commemorate the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. It has come and gone. We still haven't made a monument to the martyrs of the 1857 mutiny. It happened in May. May has just gone past. We haven't made a partition museum like Amritsar has made, or like the one which Indians have made in Delhi, I'm told. Okay, we haven't made it. We don't commemorate the Kissa Khwani Bazaar massacre, huge massacre in which Khudai Khidmatgars, another people with their leader Ghaffar Khan, who is not part of official history. Ghaffar Khan was declared a traitor all his life, including his son Wali Khan. So, so we don't commemorate this horrendous massacre because obviously, according to Travel Yarn, and the reason why we don't commemorate is because we may yet learn a lesson from that. Because those who don't learn a lesson from history are condemned to repeat it. I think this is probably the reason why we don't commemorate them, because commemoration obviously will require learning a lesson. And post-colonial states are countries born from a period of intense violence. They are not built they're built to subjugate populations, treat them as subjects, not citizens. That is why we have delineations like minorities in India and Pakistan. Hindus are declared a minority, a subject, not a citizen. Muslims in India are declared a minority, not a citizen, rather a subject. So on that sad note, I hope something good can come out of the elections in India. I know you're passing through the phase. On that very pessimistic note, I want to end my talk. And yeah, I'm not an expert on Sindh, not on Sindhi history. I don't speak the language. I understand it, but I thought this is a very compelling story and it deserves to be told. We know about Bhagat Singh a lot. There are films about it, at least six films of varying quality on Bhagat Singh, including Rang De Basanti. But if the person is not Sanjay Leela Bhansali, a blockbuster can be made on Hemu Kalani too. Look at the story of this young man. I mean, it is such pathos. I mean, giving his life for his country at the age of 19. I mean, it's full of pathos, the life of Hemu Kalani and the afterlife. So, on that note, I hope someone, I know in India the celebrations of Hemu Kalani's centenary had been happening from a year before in Barkha, and friends like Saz, they informed me. But I hope somebody can make a film about it and transfer this legacy. It's not just a legacy of the Sindhi diaspora, it's a legacy for the whole world, whoever has had to live through the colonial legacy. So I make no difference between people like Malcolm X or Che Guevara or Hemu Kalani or Bhagat Singh, or he's part of that pantheon. Very squarely I put him as part of that anti-colonial pantheon. Thank you very much for your attention once again. Thank you.
Sahab, thank you very much. It was indeed a good story, a very touching story. And it's good that at least Indian governments have recognized him. At that time, of course, it was all India, so they don't own him. It was all for entire India. Anyway, so now we will do a concluding remark. I hope it is finished in 5-6 minutes. Then, if somebody has questions, they can raise some questions. And since our co-host Mirza Faisal Beg is about to go somewhere, I will request him that he stays here till the concluding remark, shows the poster for the next.
Yeah, I will do that and then only leave.
Okay, then leave. Okay, so just play the concluding remark.
I'd like to first apologize for not being able to attend this session. But I'm very grateful to the Indian diaspora, Washington, D.C. Metro for arranging the talk, and very grateful to Raza Naeem for his commitment to spreading the story of the brave Sindhi child, Hemu Kalani, who gave his life in the fight for freedom against British rule. You have heard Raza say that Hemu Kalani is recognized in India with a statue, a postage stamp, and some roads and institutions named after him. And all this is true. However, for most people in India, and possibly also for most of you in the diaspora, the name is not familiar. In fact, I myself learned about Hemu Kalani not from any traditional written source, but completely by chance through an oral history. It was 2012, and I'd almost completed my first book on Sindh, Stories from a Vanished Homeland. Everything was done, to the extent that the pages were laid out and we were ready to print. I went to visit a friend to get some last-minute design inputs. And there I met someone who said, "Have you spoken to Madhuri Sheth? No? You must. Just go and see her. Even if it's too late to include what she tells you in your book, just go see her." So I did. And it was Madhuri who told me about Hemu Kalani. She told me that in the 1940s, Sakhar was a hotbed of revolutionary movement. Now, I'd imagine that most of you have never even heard of Sakhar until today. But Madhuri, who was only 13 years old when partition took place, had grown up in Sakhar. Sakhar is the home that she and her family lost. And she gave me names and incidents of heroes and heroines of the time. She told me how her whole family, even the children, stayed up that night. Hemu, she said, was hanged at midnight, and they sat up and wait until the body was cremated behind the primary school where she had studied. Sindh has never been part of mainstream narratives of the freedom movement in India. Over the years, I've learned how many men and women participated, how many sacrificed their youth in that struggle. And when freedom came, the Sindhis lost their homeland. Partition took such a toll that Sindhis lost not only their material belongings, in time they lost their language, they lost their culture, and they lost their history. A diaspora with no homeland to support them and hold them together. The Sindhis today are seen through prejudice and stereotypes. Their losses are ignored. Their contributions are taken for granted. So to have an event which spreads information about a Sindhi hero is a wonderful thing indeed. And I'm so grateful to all of you who made it happen. Thank you.
Quite short, but very impressive. And now, before we go to a question and answer session, here is coming week's, first of all, it is not coming fully. Yeah, coming week's event. It is a scholar in Cambridge who is a native of Turkey, Professor Aisha Zarakol, I think. So her book is Before the West, The Rise and Fall of Eastern World Orders. And she will be joined by introductory speaker, Dr. Lucas D. Olivier, and concluding remarks by Dr. Zainab Wilsa Kapan. So stay tuned for that. It must be a very good talk then. And now we enter into question answer session. Please raise your hand or what else I can say? Raise your hand, yeah. And then ask questions. Be brief. Be very brief. And please, Naeem Saab, also be very brief in responding. This the first question is from Dr. Syed Amir. Amir bhai.
Thank you, Raza Naeem Saab. It was very refreshing outlook you presented, unusual. I don't see too many voices coming like that from our country, Pakistan. And the narrow thinking which we have been suffering, unfortunately, is not being shared by India. Just as much, if not more, which is a disappointment. Now, the fact is that why Hemu Kalani is not celebrated in Pakistan, obviously because he was not a Muslim. And so we have disowned people, however eminent and however contribution they did to the country on the basis of religion. Now, that's the same thing happening in India, unfortunately. Now, he is not the only one, and comes to mind is Professor Khurana, who received a Nobel Prize, also was born in Pakistan. We never owned him or took pride in the fact, and even the current Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak of Britain, his ancestors came from Pakistan. Although he was not born in Pakistan or India. But the fact is now, some people say, well, the reason is not because there was no Pakistan at the time. But if you think about it, Allama Iqbal was born in Pakistan and he died before it was born in Pakistan. But nobody will say that he was not a Pakistani or disown him. So is there a movement now? Are you a solitary voice in Pakistan? Or there is a movement of trying to be broad-minded and inclusive and include all these people who have a different religion than Islam, to be, we can be proud of them, learn about them and all that. So I would be very interested to know what's going on, current thinking.
Thank you very much for your question. I was hoping to address these questions in the second part of my talk, but I got carried away with your interest. And I was hoping somebody would actually ask me that question, which you have, and I thank you for it. Well, unfortunately, it's a very dangerous time to be a Hindu in Pakistan. Unfortunately, many of them have migrated to India, and even there, they are not really हैविंग मतलब कोई हुन नहीं बरस रहा उनके लिए इंडिया जाके, अगर मैं उर्दू में बात करूं। और आई एम श्योर आपको यहाँ पे, आई होप यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड मी, आई एम स्पीकिंग उर्दू, आई हैव स्पोकन मोस्ट ऑफ द टॉक इन इंग्लिश, सो अगर किसी को समझ नहीं आ रही तो दे कैन कमेंट। वहां पे बहुत बड़ा मसला इस वक्त कन्वर्जन्स का हुआ है, मतलब हिंदू लड़कियों को कन्वर्ट करके गुंडागर्दी है वहाँ, मतलब जस्ट वहाँ उन्हें 16-17 साल, मतलब 40-45 साल के लोग उनको अगवा करके ले जाते हैं और निकाह पढ़ा के कन्वर्ट करके, पता नहीं कन्वर्ट ऑब्वियसली वो बाय फोर्स, और मौलवी में मौजूद होते हैं वो कन्वर्ट करा के, मतलब आज बहुत से ऐसे केसेस हुए हैं। तो अनफॉर्चुनेटली एक तो ये मामला हो रहा है, और बड़ा मतलब ये बहुत अरसे से अब हो रहा है, और सिंध में हो रहा है क्योंकि वहाँ हिंदू ज्यादा रहते हैं। लेकिन हमारे यहाँ ग्लैमराइज उन चीजों को किया जाता है कि कोई इंडिया से आया है और शी फेल इन लव विद अ पाकिस्तानी और उनकी शादी हो गई, और फिर इंडिया पाकिस्तान से हिजरत करके चली गई, उनको बॉलीवुड फिल्म की ऑफर आ गई। ये एक ग्लैमराइज्ड वर्जन है, लेकिन ये जो मैं बता रहा हूँ इस पे ना तो कोई फिल्म बनाएगा, और ये बिल्कुल ग्लैमराइज नहीं किया जा सकता। इस पे तो स्टेट को एक्शन लेना चाहिए, लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली हालांकि सिंध की गवर्नमेंट पीपल्स पार्टी की गवर्नमेंट है, और ये जुल्फिकार अली भुट्टो की पार्टी है जो शहीद की पार्टी है, लेकिन उसमें भी बहुत से लोग जो हैं मतलब तंजीला कमरानी जिनका जिक्र मैंने किया, वो शिद्दी कम्युनिटी से हैं, वो भी इसी पार्टी से टिकट उनको मिला था, जो अफ्रीकन कम्युनिटी के लोग सिंध आए, लेकिन वो कुछ भी नहीं कर रहे बिकॉज उनके वोट बैंक्स जो हैं वो डैमेज होते हैं ऐसी चीजें, मतलब अपने सिटीजन्स के बिहाफ पे। इसी तरह टेम्पल्स भी बहुत बर्बाद हुए हैं वहां पे। अब ये चीजें इंडिया में भी हो रही हैं इन रिवर्स, तो ज्यादा पीछे नहीं है छोटे और बड़े भाई। और इस माहौल में जरूरत इस बात की थी कि हम अपने इस तरह के हीरोज को रिकग्नाइज करते, मतलब आपने इतना इनसिक्योर कर दिया है अपने हिंदू सिटीजन्स को, यू हैव मेड, आपने उन्हें वाकई माइनॉरिटी ही बना दिया है। एक तो न्यूमेरिकली भी वो माइनॉरिटी थे, मतलब वो जो वाइट था पाकिस्तान के फ्लैग में, व्हाट हैव वी डन विद दैट वाइट, उसको खत्म कर दें आप। मतलब जिन्ना साहब ने जब उस फ्लैग का डिजाइन बंद किया था तो उनके जहन में ये बिल्कुल भी नहीं था, और पाकिस्तान की इनिशियल गवर्नमेंट्स में इवन अहमदी भी मौजूद थे, जफरुल्लाह खान साहब, जो कि एक बहुत बड़े ज्यूरर थे इंटरनेशनल कोर्ट ऑफ जस्टिस में, वो बाद में उन्होंने कश्मीर के लिए पाकिस्तान का केस, ही वाज एन अहमदी। और आपको पता है अहमदियों को पाकिस्तान में कैसा समझा जाता है, उनके खिलाफ भुट्टो साहब ने 1979 में मुल्लाओं को कोटो करने के लिए उनको नॉन मुस्लिम डिक्लेयर कर दिया, हत्ता कि डॉक्टर अब्दुल सलाम जो कि पूरी
Yes.
दुनिया में पाकिस्तानी थे, अपने मुल्क में, अब पूरी दुनिया में मुसलमान थे, अपने मुल्क में मुसलमान, वो भी अहमद। तो जरूरत तो इस बात की थी कि इस माहौल में वेयर सो मच हेट इज बीइंग क्रिएटेड, सो मच इनसिक्योरिटी, यू रिकॉग्नाइज पीपल लाइक हेमू कालानी, बट टोकन रिकग्निशन ही हो, उनको आप कोई उनके घर को आप रेनोवेट करें, आप उसको नेशनल मॉन्यूमेंट का दर्जा दें, जैसे इंडिया में बहुत जगहों पे किया है, उनका आबाई घर है। लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली ऐसा नहीं हो रहा, और जब तक आप अपनी, और वहाँ यहाँ पे क्रिश्चियंस भी रहते हैं, मुसलमान भी रहते हैं, मतलब 20-25% रहते हैं, कोई बहुत ज्यादा, मतलब मेजॉरिटी नहीं है लेकिन बहुत कम भी नहीं है ये परसेंटेज पाकिस्तान की, और बहुत हाईएस्ट लेवल पे इनकी कंट्रीब्यूशन है पाकिस्तान के नेशनल और कल्चरल लाइफ में, मतलब लिटरेचर में, आर्ट्स में, फौज में, मिलिट्री में। सैसिल चौधरी का नाम आपने सुना होगा, उन्होंने 65 की वॉर में पाकिस्तान की तरफ से सबसे ज्यादा उन्होंने जहाज गिराए थे। कोई डिस्टिंक्शन तो नहीं है ये, बट स्टिल उनको सेलिब्रेट किया जाता है, एयर कॉमोडोर सैसिल चौधरी, मतलब। तो पता नहीं हेमू कालानी जैसे लोगों की बारी कब आएगी, तो ये तो बहुत खतरनाक माहौल है अनफॉर्चुनेटली। लेकिन हम अनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारी स्टेट अब जहाँ पे पहुंच चुकी है, और अनफॉर्चुनेटली इंडिया में भी यही हालात हैं अनफॉर्चुनेटली। कंक्लूड,
चलिए
फहमीदा रियाज साहिबा ने एक नज़म लिखी थी, क्योंकि इंडिया में वो 6-7 साल रही, क्योंकि यहाँ पे पाकिस्तान में उन्हें कोई मानने को तैयार नहीं था।
जी,
तुम बिल्कुल हम जैसे निकले। जवाहरलाल
चलिए
नेहरू उन्होंने,
जी
और उन पे अटैक हुआ था, एक आर्मी ऑफिसर ने, ही पुल्ड आउट अ गन या उनके एस्कॉर्ट में से ट्राई टू शूट। तो अब वो जो हम जैसे निकले हैं, वो जो है वो अब रिवर्स हो गई है कॉम।
या चलिए वी विल
तो
सी आगे क्या होगा, लेकिन आगे बढ़ते हैं दूसरे क्वेश्चन पे। इंडिया में तो टाइम लगेगा उतने लेवल पहुंचने में, अभी मोदी साहब थोड़ा हिल रहे हैं। लेट्स मूव टू कैसर नकवी साहब। आप भी ब्रीफ रहिए थोड़ा सा, और जवाब में भी थोड़ा, ताकि वी कैन फिनिश इन टाइम। कैसा नकवी साहब?
जी सर, मैं रजा ये कहने वाला था, आई वांट यू टू कमेंट ऑन दिस कि ब्रिटिश हैड द पॉलिसी ऑफ डिवाइड एंड रूल। माइनॉरिटी का concept है ना, ये आप किया था, ये ब्रिटिशर्स ने किया था, माइनॉरिटी और मेजॉरिटी। दुनिया तो और बहुत से मुल्कों में जाएं तो माइनॉरिटी वगैरह ऐसी कोई खास चीज नहीं, एवरीबडी इज इक्वल, एवरीबडी इज सिटीजन। सो ये माइनॉरिटी का इंडिया एंड पाकिस्तान इनफॉर्चुनेटली हमारे कल्चर, हमारे उसमें इतना इनग्रेन्ड हो गया है, which is unfortunate. I would like you to comment on this, please. Thank you.
आई थिंक कमेंट वैसे मैंने कर दिया था। कुछ लोगों को बुरा भी लगा कि मैंने माइनॉरिटी से उनका स्टेटस क्यों छीन लिया, उन्हें सिटीजन्स क्यों कह दिया है। लेकिन हमारे मुल्क में जहाँ पे पोस्ट कॉलोनियल एक विशेष तरह की एक स्टेट होती है, वी डोंट, लेट्स नॉट कंपेयर द स्टेटस ऑफ सपोज्ड माइनॉरिटीज फ्रॉम द वेस्ट। वहाँ तो बहाई हूँ, अहमदी हूँ, शिया हूँ, आपको फ्रीडम ऑफ प्रीचिंग भी मिलता है, सब कुछ, ऑल द फ्रीडम्स जो है आपको, फोर फ्रीडम जो जो है वो आपको मिलते हैं। लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली मैं क्यों ने हमने इनको माइनॉरिटीज बना दिया है, और हमने इन्हें स्पेशल प्रिविलेज ताकि ये लोग ले सकें।
Yeah, there is no comparison, obviously. Yeah.
हालांकि ऐसी सोसाइटीज अगर हम बनाते तो इनको स्पेशल प्रिविलेजेस हासिल करने की जरूरत नहीं थी। ये मतलब आप नॉन मुस्लिम कांट बिकम द प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान, कांट बिकम द प्राइम मिनिस्टर, तो क्या माइनॉरिटी, ये तो इंसानियत से भी लो दर्जा है। इंडिया में तो बन सकता है, बना हुआ है, प्रेसिडेंट भी बने हुए हैं, प्राइम मिनिस्टर भी, अछूत नीची जात के लोग भी, स्केड्यूल्ड कास्ट से भी, जो आपकी द्रौपदी मुर्मू अभी पिछली जो प्रेसिडेंट, मतलब हमारे यहाँ अनफॉर्चुनेटली। तो ये हमने वाकई उन्हें माइनॉरिटीज, तो मैं आई थिंक ऑन द वेरी कॉन्फिडेंटली मैं कह सकता हूँ कि ये सिटीजन्स बनने में इन्हें बहुत टाइम लगेगा। हमारे मुल्कों में जिनको माइनॉरिटीज कहते हैं, इन्हें बहुत टाइम लगेगा, क्योंकि अंग्रेज तो हमें वो फैब्रिक दे गए, लेकिन वो डीकॉलोनाइज नहीं हो सका अनफॉर्चुनेटली। वो अभी तक डीकॉलोनाइज नहीं हो सका, मेंटालिटी डीकॉलोनाइज नहीं हुई। हालांकि सब बड़े बड़े लोग थे जिन्होंने कॉन्स्टिट्यूशंस बनाई, अम्बेडकर को ले लें, भुट्टो साहब ने जो पाकिस्तान में 1973 की कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बनाई, जिसका अभी भी हवाला दिया जाता है। लेकिन अनफॉर्चुनेटली माइनॉरिटीज विल रिमेन माइनॉरिटीज जब तक हम इनको जो है वो हम सब्जेक्ट समझते रहेंगे। मतलब जो मर्जी उठ के हम कर सकते हैं, टेम्पल्स फाड़ तोड़ दिया, मस्जिद तोड़ दी, किसी को डिक्लेयर कर दिया जी यहाँ पे तो मस्जिद थी। आई मीन इंडिया पाकिस्तान दोनों अनफॉर्चुनेटली, मैं तफरीक, और इवन साउथ एशिया इन जनरल, मतलब आप देखें श्रीलंका में क्या हुआ है, जो तमिल्स के खिलाफ जो टोटली जो डेसिमेट कर दिया गया जंग में, खाना जी टोटली डेसिमेट, मतलब उनको कर दिया गया।
Okay, let's move on to the next question from रेखा जी, रेखा साहनी जी, आपका कोई क्वेश्चन, if you want to ask question?
Sarji, it's not a question, but I am in Bombay. My parents are from Hyderabad, Sindh. And for me, this topic was a very nostalgic moment because I'm born and brought up in Bombay. But we have heard so much about Mr. Hemu Kalani that we studied as students in our school. My grandparents used to run school in Hyderabad, Sindh and Karachi. And I was lucky enough and blessed to visit the country 10 years back and see what those institutes are doing. So when you all are sharing this topic and sharing about both the countries, for me, it's a very nostalgic moment. And I would like to share, Raza Sahab, aapke saath ki aapne kaha ki 23rd March he was born. There was another soul of Sindh that was born on 23rd March. That was called Hiranand, the soul of Sindh. And I was reading about him also. He was called Sadhu Hiranand, though they were from Advani family and they were four brothers. So for me, it's been a very nostalgic moment and memories of my parents and grandparents. So thank you for bringing this up. And I should say, in my own country, in India, we all are also minority belonging to the Sindhi community, but we ensure that we make it a majority. So thank you very much for this wonderful session. Really impressed.
Thank you. Pleasure.
तो रजा नईम साहब, और तो मैं क्वेश्चन नहीं देख रहा हूँ. I think now at least those few questions were quite important questions, and the presentation went very well. We have now a story. It will be, I mean, it is recorded and it will be put on YouTube. So at least there is a recorded history now of your speech, of your talk. And I hope others can, whenever the YouTube will become public, they can really watch it. And so, thank you very much for bringing this. I wonder why, when Bhagat Singh is now restored somewhat in Lahore, at least, Bhagat Singh Chowk now, Bhagat Singh Museum now. So why in Sindh, which is always considered in India at least, or in Indian mind, Sindh more, a little bit more liberal, mahol, jisko kehte hain, sir. So why, I mean, comparatively or relatively to other parts of Pakistan, why Hemu was not restored yet? I mean, that is one question. In spite of People's Party's governments and all those, there were more chance for his restoration than a more rigid Punjab region where Bhagat Singh is now somewhat restored. So that is one curiosity. At least, I don't know
I
why.
think Dr. Dolly Herani has raised her hand. I can see a raised
Oh,
hand.
no, yes. Yeah, earlier I didn't see. So please ask the question. Yeah.
Uh, hello, sir. Myself, Dr. Dolly Hirani, and I have been completed my PhD from BHU. और मेरा जो PhD topic था that was of Sindhi women of Varanasi district. Right now, I'm working in Ministry of Culture in Delhi, and I am working continuously on the Sindhi culture here. Sir, I just want to know about it कि इस तरह के awareness के लिए what should we have to do for our upcoming generation? Should we have to publish some supplementary book on the Hemu Kalani's documents on them या कुछ भी ऐसा जो बच्चों के लिए अवेयरनेस के लिए हो कुछ ऐसी कॉमिक्स हीरो के लिए अनसंग वॉरियर्स के लिए कैन यू प्लीज गिव द सजेशन फॉर अस प्लीज
Thank you, Dr. Dolly. Very good to hear about your work. Yes, I think I talked about curriculum and public engagement. It's very important. I got to know about Hemu Kalani because my friend Dr. Saz Agarwal, she told me about a book by Jethu Lalwani on Hemu Kalani, which he published. It was a reconstructed biography, not really a factual biography, but a reconstructed biography of Hemu Kalani translated by Shri Mohan Gehani. So that was smuggled literally to me across the border by a well-meaning friend. And when I reviewed that book for one of the largest newspapers here, at the end I said that this book needs to be translated into all the languages of Pakistan because he's a hero not for just Sindh or India. He's a hero for humanity. When someone lays down their life at the age of 19, he can be a tremendous role model for the youth. I mean, we talked about
yes
Bhagat
yes of
Singh.
course
We know about Bhagat Singh a lot. He's been celebrated, overly celebrated. We know about Che Guevara a lot. Again, he gave his life for revolution. We've put him on T-shirts as well. What about Hemu Kalani? That's what I've argued. He has a potential of. I mean, there's a film in his story, but also a tremendous potential for youth. I mean, Swaraj Sena I talked about. Do we have a Swaraj Sena in India now? I mean, obviously not seditious activities, but I mean, in Pakistan, India, it's very important to make these heroes. Yes, we in India, statue has been made in the Indian Parliament. Yadgari Mandal has been constructed, but it's not enough in the current climate of fear. I'm not even going to talk about Pakistan in India. I mean, public engagement is very important. And my friend Barka Khushalani, who I was hoping is going to ask a question, but has limited herself to just thanking me for reading out her wonderful poem.
So,
Plays have
yeah,
been made. This
yeah,
is very important,
yeah,
culturally to be
yeah.
revived. Nazir Ahmad Saab has raised their hand.
Yeah. I was about to ask. So I just was waiting for you to finish. So Dr. Nazir Ahmed will ask the last question, I believe. And if Barkha ji can recite her poem in original Sindhi, that would
Yes.
be the nice end for the talk. I think, though you have put it in English, but it is not the same thing as the origin. Original context is different. So, Dr. Nazir Saab, please be brief.
जी मैं सबसे पहले नईम साहब की खिदमत में नजरान अकीदत पेश करता हूँ नईम साहब, आपने कमाल कर दिया.
मेहरबानी.
You started out on a low note. It's amazing how subtly you shifted from the mind to the heart until you recited that poem. It brought tears to my eyes. I was reflecting on what we lost, especially in northern India. We gained independence. We somehow discovered we were different. Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Parsis, etc., etc. But in the process, did we lose our humanity? Did we forget that we are human beings? Because the story that you told it's a universal story, as you rightly pointed out. It's a story that every child should learn. I've written a great deal about India and partition, about global history, but I must confess, I did not know much about Hemu until today. Any comments, sir?
Can you repeat your question, please? Sorry. Just a question.
मैं ये सोच रहा था, देखिए हम लोगों ने, हमें पता चल गया कि भाई हम हिंदू हैं, मुसलमान हैं, सिख हैं, पारसी हैं, ये हैं, वो हैं, वो हैं, लेकिन इस दरमियान में क्या हमने ये भूल गए कि हम पहले इंसान है, इंसानियत को भूल गए. South India especially, what's happening is madness all the way through when you think of it. Ultimately, it's going to lead to tragedy. Any comment?
Well, पार्टीशन के बाद एक राइटर थे रामानंद सागर, उन्होंने एक नॉवेल लिखा था और इंसान मर गया. उस पे उनको काफी क्रिटिसिज्म का सामना करना पड़ा था, क्योंकि उन्होंने कहा था कि ये जो राइट्स हैं, ये जो फसादात जिनको हम कहते हैं 1947 के बंटवारे में, ये बेसिकली इंसानियत की मौत थी. तो और ये मौत हमने बार बार देखी है नजीर साहब. 47 से तो हम थ्योरेटिकली तो हम बहुत आगे आ गए, 21वीं सदी में आ गए, लेकिन 71 में भी हमने इंसानियत मरते हुए देखी ढाका में, और फिर अब दोबारा. तो बिल्कुल जैसे कि आपने खुद ही दरिया को कूजे में बंद कर दिया, ऐसा होना तो नहीं चाहिए. देखें यूरोप के ममालिक इतने साल जंगें लड़ते रहे, 100 साल, 100 ईयर वॉर ऑफ रोजेस. अब उनमें भी आपस में जो है एका हो गया, हत्ता कि अब वो रशिया को भी हिस्सा नहीं समझते यूरोप का, वो निकाल बाहर करने. तो वो भी अब मतलब सॉफ्ट बॉर्डर्स, ट्रैवल, एक वीजा कर दिया. तो वो भी पहले नहीं एक जमाने में वो भी फ्रांसीसी अंग्रेजों के अभी भी वो लैंग्वेज के बहुत खिलाफ हैं, लेकिन कुछ चीजों पे उनका बुनियादी एग्रीमेंट है कि हम एक दूसरे से नफरतें नहीं हम पैदा करेंगे, हम एक दूसरे के मुल्कों में जाएंगे, एंजॉय करेंगे, एक दूसरे के गुड्स खरीदेंगे. तो ये चीज हम लोग भी कर सकते हैं. हम तो मतलब 7 मुल्क हैं इस रीजन में जिसको हम साउथ एशिया कहते हैं, और हम अभी तक नफरतें पाल रहे हैं. तो वो इंसान मर गया, मुझे वो नॉवल अक्सर याद आता है. और उसमें उन्होंने पार्टियों को भी नहीं बख्शा. उन्होंने कहा था कम्युनिस्ट पार्टी भी इसमें शामिल थी, जो कि इंडिया.
आप फ्रीज हो रहे हैं जी, आप बार बार आप फ्रीज हो रहे हैं, थोड़ा सा फ्लक्चुएशन वहां पे, बट एनीवे
मुसलमान,
ना.
पारसी से सब इंसान इनमें, तो उस पे तरक्की.
जी थैंक यू. सो चलिए, तो आप बरखा जी से को रिक्वेस्ट करें, आप खुद कर सकते हैं, मैं तो कर ही रहा हूँ कि would she like
मैं
to.
रिक्वेस्ट
Can you
Barkha ji,
मेरी
would you
आवाज?
like to recite your poem in Sindhi?
मैं भी
Yes, yes.
रिक्वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please, you can recite, and then after that we will end up this session.
Okay, the title is Shehzado Theo Shaheed.
जी. अब तो चुप हो गई.
In the jail. Can you hear me now?
वो बीच में कट गया, आपने शुरू तो किया वेरी क्लियर, बट नाउ या
अब सुनाई दे रहा है आपको? अब
जी
सुनाई
जी
दे रहा है?
बिल्कुल सुनाई दे रहा जी।
Okay. Hemu Kalani's mother goes to meet him in jail. Hemu पुट छा जान तिरीअ ते खणी केर हीअं घुमंदो आ? घाव शरीर जा लिकाए केर हीअं खिलंदो आ? शहज़ादा मुंहिंजा हल तूं मूंसां घर। शहज़ादा मुंहिंजा हल तूं मूंसां घर। अम्मा आज़ादीअ लाइ जान निसार कयां, ख़ुशि मां आहियां। तूं बि ख़ुशि थींदीअ पक, मां इहो थो भायां। अहिड़ो मौक़ो कंहिंखे मिलंदो आ, जान ॾेई खसिया हक़। देस थो पुकारे अम्मा, कीअं हलां मां घर? देस थो पुकारे अम्मा, कीअं हलां मां घर? पुट आहीं हठीलो, अॼु ज़िद न कर। पुट आहीं हठीलो, अॼु ज़िद न कर। ॾीन नाला सभिनी जा, जल्द हलूं घर। शहज़ादा मुंहिंजा हल तूं मूंसां घर। अमड़ आज़ादीअ लाइ मां ज़रूरु हठ कंदुसि। आज़ादीअ लाइ मां ज़रूरु हठ कंदुसि। साथियुनि जा नाला मूड़ न ज़ाहिर कंदुसि। दोस्तनि सां दगाबाज़ी, हुननि जे माइटनि सां ठगी कीअं कयां? दोस्तनि सां दगाबाज़ी, हुननि जे माइटनि सां ठगी कीअं कयां? देस थो पुकारे अम्मा, कीअं हलां मां घर? पुट नंढी उमिरि ऐं मौत जी तलवार, छो थो पाण खे आंधीअ में धिकी? आहीं त होशियार। शहज़ादा मुंहिंजा हल तूं मूंसां घर। देस दोस्तनि माइटनि खे मां न ॾींदुसि दोखो। सिर कुर्बान वतन तां कयां, इरादो अथमि चोखो। फर्ज़ निभायां, कर्ज़ लाहियां। देस थो पुकारे अम्मा, कीअं हलां मां घर? पुट विञाए माउ कीअं भला ख़ुशि रहंदी? हिननि खे दोस्तनि जा नाला ॾे, जान तुंहिंजी बचंदी। शहज़ादा मुंहिंजा हल तूं मूंसां घर। मुंहिंजी बहादुर अम्मा मूंखे न कमज़ोर बणाए, पंहिंजी दिलि खे अॼु मज़बूत बणाए। नस नस में आ जुनून, नस नस में आ जुनून, ॾियां आहुति जेकर। देस थो पुकारे अम्मा, कीअं हलां मां घर? पुटड़ा तुंहिंजी हिम्मत ते नाज़ आहे, पर दिलि हथां माउ मजबूर आहे। शहज़ादा मुंहिंजा हल तूं मूंसां घर। अमड़ दिल ते पत्थर रखी पुख्तो कर। आसीस जो हथड़ो मथे मुंहिंजे ते धर। हीउ गद्दार छा मुंहिंजी जान बख़्शींदा? देस थो पुकारे अम्मा, कीअं हलां मां घर? पुट तो बिना कीअं ऐं छो जियां मां? ईश्वर दर पल पल तो लाइ दुआ घुरां मां। शहज़ादा मुंहिंजा हल तूं आज़ादीअ जे राह ते वधंदो हल। आज़ादीअ जे राह ते वधंदो हल। देस मुंहिंजो आन मान शान आहे अम्मा। देस मुंहिंजो आन मान शान आहे अम्मा। वतन ते हर जनम कुर्बान आहे। हाणे अगम देस जो सैर करणो आहे। हाणे अगम देस जो सैर करण वेंदुसि। देस थो पुकारे अम्मा, कीअं हलां मां घर? महिरबानी, थैंक यू।
Wow, brilliant.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, quite, I mean, we cannot understand fully, but you can feel that passion and emotions running there. So, with this note, now we should end this session. And sorry, whatever in the initial phase, technically we gone through, and a little bit frustration was there, all these things. But this happens.
Nazir Saab, can I request Barkha ji to translate in Urdu or Hindi?
नहीं भाई, ऐसा है कि अभी तो हो गया ना, इंग्लिश में तो उन्होंने सुना दिया। अब वो ट्रांसलेट जब करेंगे तो हो सकता है बरखा जी से हम कहेंगे ट्रांसलेशन हमको दे दे, आप तक मैं पहुंचा दूंगा। उनसे आप उर्दू में भी है ना बाद में, या बरखा जी के एक सेशन करा देंगे कि हिंदी से हिंदी में और हिंदी से उर्दू, उर्दू से अंग्रेजी में कैसे चले। जाने दे, बाद में हो जाएगा। बट शी वॉज ग्रेशियस इनफ टू रिसाइट इन द ओरिजिनल, and that's what we wanted to really get a feel out of that.
Yeah, thank you, Barkha ji.
Yeah, Naeem Saab, wonderful session, and it was well researched and well done, and inshallah again we will meet. So let's all say goodbye to each other for now, and until another Saturday, and we'll see